Stories of the dark? They can enter your mind and come alive.
Today, we're going to be covering the world's scariest monsters.
Ancient.
And
Modern.
I'm Jake the Cake Sands.
And I'm Jameson O'Connell.
And I'm Paul.
And this is Generic Monster TV. But first, we met up with monsterologist Dan Retznam. I define monster as being a being with evil intentions and malicious goals, who then acts on and carries out those actions, often to the detriment of their peers. It's a common misconception that a monster has to be some entity with enlarged teeth and a thirst for blood. A person could easily be a monster, just like one in folklore. What Dan had to say fascinated us. Me, Jameson, and Paul worked diligently for the rest of the night trying to compile a list of human monsters.
Dracula.
Not human. Paul, what do you got?
Shaggy.
Shaggy? God, no, that's terrifying.
Ancient monsters. Number 1.
Elizabeth Bathory, described as the most vicious female serial killer in recorded history. She socially outranked her husband and lived in a castle in Hungary, where she carried out all her acts. Elizabeth enjoyed torturing and killing young girls. She would either beat or starve her victims. She believed that drinking the blood of young girls would preserve her youthfulness and her looks.
Number 2. Caligula, one of the emperors of the Roman Empire, is known throughout history as a cruel and erratic killer. Caligula earned his name for his stature, as it's the Latin word for little boots. He would have people sentenced to death by gladiator arena, and would sacrifice people for the sake of entertainment, sometimes even people from the crowd. Supposedly, he once ordered a whole section of the crowd to be eaten by beasts, just for fun. Number 3.
Genghis Khan was the founder of the Mongol Empire. He launched the Mongol invasions and conquered most of Eurasia. These invasions were often also accompanied by large-scale massacres of civilian populations. By the end of his life, his empire had occupied a large portion of Central Asia and China. Genghis Khan was and is still known for the brutality of his campaigns and is widely regarded as a genocidal ruler.
Number 4.
Attila the Hun reigned from 434 to 553 AD, the leader of the Huns, who in order to gain total power killed his own brother. He took over a large region of Germania. Then he caused wide-scale destruction of Roman cities and towns, with little to no resistance, making it clear that the Roman army was no longer as invincible as it has been. Not only did he make the Huns the most effective fighting force, but he also built a vast empire through rape and pillaging.
Number 5. As the prince of 15th century southern Romania, Vlad the Impaler killed many men. Vlad earned his name by impaling his enemies through the torso with large stakes and erecting these stakes in the ground. He would often have thousands of prisoners impaled at the same time. Many victims lived for several days in pure agony. Vlad the Impaler is actually the inspiration for Dracula the vampire. Modern monsters. Number 1.
The Zodiac Killer was a serial killer who was active from the 1960s until the 70s and is yet to be identified. Something that distinguishes this certain serial killer from the other monsters of his kind was the cryptic letters he would leave for the authorities at his crime scenes. He lived in and killed most of his victims in Northern California. While the drawing of him is very well known, authorities were never able to find him physically.
Number 2. While Charles Manson never physically killed anyone himself, he manipulated multiple women into savagely murdering many people. He took advantage of young, impressionable women and brainwashed them in a cult-like manner. He orchestrated the murders of famous actress Sharon Tate and 4 friends in her home in Hollywood, along with various other groups of people. Tate was 8 months pregnant at the time with director Roman Polanski's baby. Number 3.
Jeffrey Dahmer, a convicted serial killer and sex offender in the area of Milwaukee, giving him the nickname Milwaukee Cannibal. Killed 17 males between 1978 and 1991. He committed sexual acts with the corpses of the dead bodies and then dismembered each one. He would also take photographs at various stages of the murders. It was later found out that he would keep the heads of his victims in a freezer.
Number 4.
Joseph Stalin was General Secretary of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union and a totalitarianist. His own interpretation of Marxism-Leninism, most of which actually contradicted Marx and Lenin's ideologies, became known as Stalinism. Stalin assumed leadership over the country after Vladimir Lenin's death in 1924. Stalin instituted the 5-year plans, which contributed to the famine of 1932 to 1933, as well as the Great Purge, in which over 1 million were imprisoned and at least 700,000 were executed. Stalin died in 1953, but is still widely regarded as a monster due to his overseeing of ethnic cleansing, mass repression, and thousands of executions and famines.
Number 5. Infamous serial killer Jack the Ripper is suspected to have killed up to 12 young girls in 1880s London. He slit all of his victims' throats, then would extract pieces of their organs. In one case, he even mailed half a kidney to the police. He would often also send notes to the police, taunting them. To this day, nobody knows Jack's true identity.